Hey, it's Josh. I am not at the P, the Black Cow, the Peekskill Coffee House, or any coffee shop. I am in my living room chair, a place where I do not normally do any writing, but that might change after today. I am listening to one of the political debaters that I listen to on TikTok, but I am listening to him on YouTube because I have a YouTube Premium subscription, and a YouTube Premium subscription allows me to listen to videos in the background over other apps, which a normal subscription does not. This subscription also means I have not seen an ad on YouTube in years. How do I manage this when I am a writer in self-imposed poverty? Well, I figured out how to get this service as part of my phone plan. Guys, this is me being vulnerable again. I am letting you understand who I am by describing my cell phone plan. Also, if you are interested in political debate, and especially if you are interested in getting an idea of some of the minds out there who have a different perspective, a very different perspective, a wildly different perspective, check out the accounts Parker Get a Job and Dean Withers on YouTube. They go live and debate followers of the leader of the Trump administration pretty much every day, and they are exceedingly intelligent young dudes. Smarter than me, anyway. I did spend a majority of today at the Black Cow, the Black-owned, gay-friendly, queer and trans employing and supporting coffee shop in Croton, New York, finishing up my massive, nearly 9,000-word piece about Spike Lee's new movie Highest to Lowest and Akira Kurosawa's High and Low, the 1963 film it is based on. I laughed a lot as I was editing it, and I hope you will laugh too. I will be releasing this tomorrow to read on my Substack, so please subscribe right now at superjews.substack.com. That's superjews.substack.com. I will also release this piece as a podcast soon after, and the Come With Me to See video to go along with it will hit YouTube next week. By the way, instead of referring to these film commentary pieces as long-form culture coverage, I am starting to call them Josh Bloom's Right on Time Recaps, the film review series that runs when you're ready to read. This is my catchy way of branding the fact that I do not seem to cover movies right when they come out, and I find that many people do not watch these movies right when they come out either. So, why not lean into that? When you're ready to watch the new Spike Lee movie, for instance, which started streaming on Apple TV Plus on September 5th, you won't have to read some stale review from a month ago. You can read a brand new review from me. Next up will be my write-up about The Goonies, which is also coming out a little late. The Goonies was released on June 7th, 1985, so I'm coming in 40 years late, but I am excited to write about it anyway, because when I write, it is like I am writing the story I want to read as I type, and so I am looking forward to seeing what I have to say. Interestingly, The Goonies has a tangential connection to my upcoming book, which I will be able to talk more in depth about at the end of the month, when the book is announced and I start pestering you for pre-orders. The tangential connection is that The Goonies stars Sean Astin, and Sean Astin also stars in the Lord of the Rings films, and Sean Astin's co-star in those films is Elijah Wood, and Elijah Wood figures into my book. I am looking forward to telling you how and why. The book comes out December 9th. Last week I mentioned the next film I will be covering, which will be the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio called One Battle After Another, and then we will be heading into the big fall film releases. I will have one pass remaining to the Jacob Burns Film Center, so I will have to choose my movie very, very carefully. At least I have figured out where the new free parking lot is in Pleasantville. I spent some time talking about the Pleasantville parking scam in the Substack piece I will post tomorrow. Subscribe. Ooh, I just remembered I also have the $20 Regal gift certificate I mentioned last week as well. I am thinking I will use that for a more mainstream film that will be enhanced by seeing it in a mall theater type setting, rather than the snotty and snooty environment that I normally feel most comfortable in. I had a meeting with my publicist this week. I have never been the person meeting with the publicist. I have only been the publicist that persons are meeting with. It sounds like he is in the zone and excited to get the word out about my book. As a person who has been a publicist, I am keeping my expectations reasonable as far as what kind of press the book will get, but I am hoping that my many years in the business will have a positive effect. I was honest with my publicist, however, about the fact that I have made a few enemies along the way, because as you know from listening to this podcast, I have a big mouth. I also received my book back from the copy editor this week, who I looked up and saw is a very accomplished woman who is also a successful musician. It was fascinating to find out how many punctuation and grammar mistakes I have been making pretty much my entire life. I learned a lot that I won't soon forget. The entire experience with this book has been such an amazing education. It reminds me of when I worked for about 5 years with a top artist manager and learned more about the music business than I could have ever learned in school. I feel so grateful. If the book gets press and sells and entertains readers and makes new fans for my subjects, I will be overjoyed, and I don't even know what it feels like to be overjoyed, but maybe I will for the first time. Here is a quote my subject just gave me about the book that we will be using to promote it. This book is completely different from the way I thought of things, but it appears to be accurate. This is about as perfect a summation as I could ask for. I couldn't buy a better summation. But you could buy something, and that something would be a coffee. There is no website called Buy a Perfect Summation from the subject of Josh's book about Josh's book that perfectly sums up the contents of Josh's book as summed up by the subject of Josh's book. But there is a website called Buy Me a Coffee, and for only $3, you can buy me a coffee. Go to buymeacoffee.com/Josh Bloom. Only $3 to contribute to making my day just a little more tolerable. I am sure that with all of the suffering in the world, you must think that I am the person who deserves $3. This is episode number 49 of the Josh Bloom is going to try and get the subject of his book to send a text to Elijah Wood, who is directly connected to the subject of the book, and try to convince Elijah Wood to read Josh's book and offer a blurb about Josh's book that would definitely help spread the word about Josh's book, since Elijah Wood has starred in films that have grossed over $3 billion, and he is famous podcast, also known as the Josh Bloom Podcast. It is the latest edition of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration, days 236 through 242. Just a reminder, the next episode of the podcast, which will arrive early next week, is not an edition of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. It's extra content, so don't freak out. This week on the show, we start on day 236 with a comment about the video from last week on day 235. This commenter asks me why I am not a millionaire, and I actually explain a little bit of my financial history prior to self-imposed poverty. I look back on the financial crash of 2008, clarify my feelings about rich people, and take the opportunity to mention the Pet Shop Boys song called Opportunities. On day 237, I contemplate being perceived like Amy Poehler as Leslie Knope on Parks and Recreation when it comes to community guidelines violations on TikTok. Apparently, some creators feel that the new rules are choking their political content. Not only do I not believe that I violate any community guidelines, I actually believe that I promote guidelines for the community. I am just simply suggesting we ignore the Trump administration, and how bad can that be? On day 238, I received a comment about the previous day's video regarding my concern about those new community guidelines. The commenter seems to believe that I am not important enough to be worried about, which hurt my feelings, and so I felt the need to respond with thinly veiled contempt in a way that felt totally satisfying and productive. Thank you to Hockey Mom of 3 for giving me the chance to put you in your place. It was fun. On day 239, I announced that the TikTok ban that we have been wondering about for nearly a year is now not going to happen, which seems as good a time as any to express my gratitude for every viewer and every listener, and to reiterate that the point of this exercise is to spend less time learning about the lives of the people who do us no good and spend more time living and learning with the ones we love. Stay tuned to find out what this has to do with Arnold circa 1974. Day 240 is another opportunity for me to remind myself that the internet is not real life, as we come off of a week of scary political violence followed by attempts to stifle free speech. It bears repeating that there are radicalized people among us who are not so rad. They are radicalized, but these people are few, and we are unlikely to ever actually encounter them. I am reminded of Jim Carrey in The Truman Show and how he at least got to live his delusional life in an ideal environment. On day 241, we discuss the Hamburglar, or more specifically the word hamburger, which is now not allowed to be said in North Korea. Isn't that nice? This leads to talking about why, as human beings, we allow other human beings to have control over what we think, what we say, and what we do. How is it possible that we tolerate this? I first got these ideas when I was in first grade, and I still have them now. On day 242, I discuss how I have never watched Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, or any late-night host after David Letterman went off the air. This is, of course, related to the continued attempts by the Trump administration to choke free speech. For now, I suggest following my advice and checking out the Letterman clip from the 80s that I discuss on this day. There's nothing that the leader of the Trump administration can do about the cooking oil content I reference. Just another reminder to please make sure to go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. We are closing in on 2 million views. I post my extended Come With Me to See videos there, and you can also check out my series like 10-second songs, affirmations for the miserable, songs that don't respect my boundaries, and misunderstood lyrics, along with the original daily TikTok videos of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration that this podcast is made from. Follow me on all my social media at superjews.com, that's superjews.com, or IamJoshBloom.com. Thanks for listening, and now let's get into 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. Just so you know, I am listening to the album New Magnetic Wonder by the Apples in Stereo as I'm writing this in the dark. I am still in my living room chair. I think I may write from here in the future, but we'll see. I feel like I am more of a desk kind of guy, to be honest. Oh, by the way, I bought 8 packages of English muffins today because they were discounted to 99 cents a package when they are usually $1.99. English muffins are my preferred choice of bread product. I had a video go viral once about my method of toasting them. I'll tell you more about it in a future episode. Day 236 of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. I'm not a self-help guru, just trying to help myself. Ryan asks, Josh, why aren't you a millionaire? Well, Ryan, I will tell you that there was a time in my life when I came very close to grossing $1 million one particular year, which, if adjusted for inflation, would likely be over $1 million. And I will add that was during the most dark, most depressing, and most mentally, physically, and emotionally unhealthy time in my life. Now, I am not saying that I completely equate the amount of business I was doing to that emotional, physical, and mental state, but I do know that it taught me a lesson that acquiring money, acquiring property, and simply the act of acquiring, as defined within the bounds of capitalism, for me personally, did not make me feel good. It made me feel worse. I can't say that I'm not a millionaire because I learned those lessons, but I can tell you I don't have the ambition to become a millionaire because I learned those lessons. Personally, I have found that the creative life, the artistic life, the life that leads me to embrace other people rather than embrace other property is the way I want to live. That being said, I don't have anything against millionaires and billionaires personally. I love that Pet Shop Boys song from 1986 called Opportunities, Let's Make Lots of Money. And I think there are some ethical millionaires and billionaires out there, but it is a fact, and I know this from my own experience, that to get to that level of generating income, you have to do it off the backs of other people. It doesn't mean you treat employees badly, but they're employees. They are reliant upon you and your ingenuity and your work ethic and your ambition to have a steady income. And the more they rely on you, the more they show up every day and come through the door and sit in the chair and do the work you give them to do, the more money that is made for you. I don't know what would have happened if the financial crash of 2008 didn't initiate a change in how I was going to live my life going forward. But I look back on it now as a blessing, because now I do a lot less stressing and have more inclination to use my imagination and ignore the Trump administration. Day 237 of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Is day 237 the last day of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration? Not if I can help it. I love ignoring the Trump administration. I have been seeing posts all day long about new community guidelines. Now, I don't know if making the world aware that I am spending 1,461 days ignoring the Trump administration is some kind of violation of community guidelines, but not only do I believe there is no way it could be, I believe that what I am doing by spending 1,461 days ignoring the Trump administration is a guideline for the community. If it so happens that I am no longer wanted around here by the powers that be, as is being suggested by some of my fellow creators, well, I will simply just have to accept that reality. But for now, I want to continue to spread the message that I have been spreading since day one of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration, which is a very simple two-part message. One is to spend less time consuming the constant and endless barrage of information that is put in front of our face 24 hours a day through the news media. And by consuming less of that useless information, we are able to reclaim that time, regain our mind, and use those resources to develop new expressions, create new curiosities, and initiate new interests in our lives and the world around us in order to better the lives of people we care about who may not be as strong as we are when it comes to ignoring the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration. Again, this very simple two-part message to me is no violation of community guidelines. It is the opposite of that. It supports the community guidelines. Think of me innocently like Amy Poehler as Leslie Knope on Parks and Recreation. She abides by the guidelines of the community, and so do I, even when I'm ignoring the Trump administration. Day 238 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Hockey mom of 3 says, I doubt they care. They have way more important people to worry about. Well, thank you, hockey mom of 3. You don't happen to be Perrette Lemieux, mother of the Lemieux triplets, are you? That would be cool. I'm just kidding. I don't follow sports. This comment is related to yesterday's video where I wondered aloud if the rumors regarding new community guidelines on this platform may discourage someone like myself from making the world aware that I am spending 1,461 days ignoring the Trump administration. I was deeply concerned that perhaps I would now be violating those guidelines. But as of today, Hockey Mom of 3 has assured me that I do not have to worry. I want to let you know, Hockey Mom of 3, that this comes as good news because I use this forum as a means of self-expression, which is the exact point I am making with this series in the first place. Which is, again, as I stated yesterday, to consume less information from the news media in order for us to reclaim that time and regain our mind to have more resources to devote to self-expression like this, Hockey Mom of 3. I realize I am a creator on this particular platform with shy of 10,000 followers, but not that shy. And when I reach 10,000 followers, if I reach 10,000 followers, maybe with your help, Hockey Mom of 3, I will be able to monetize this content, and perhaps that will give me additional resources by which to contribute to the world, just like you have done with your self-expression, Hockey Mom of 3, by taking the time to comment in the first place. Which, if we think about it, means I am important to you, at least enough for you to spend a portion of your life typing in a comment about how I am not important. Do you see the irony in that, Hockey Mom of 3? I hope so. And I also know that you understand what the word irony means, because if you are a Hockey Mom of 3, then you are certainly a supporter of children's education, which, based on the fact that you are watching me and commenting, means that you are ignoring the Trump administration. Day 239 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Did you hear that TikTok is going to be banned again? Well, guess what? The word is that TikTok is here to stay. Were you wondering if it was even going away? We have been through this so many times that perhaps this series should be called 1461 Days of Ignoring the TikTok Ban, fam. Not quite as catchy as 1461 Days of Ignoring the Trump administration, if you ask me. I find that while I have expressed over the last few days how I do enjoy this platform as a means of self expression, I also, on the other side of that coin, have to confess that the hypocritical nature of the treatment of creators, and specifically their creations, is unprecedented on TikTok when it comes to social media apps. It seems very arbitrary how and why certain content is pushed and certain content is not pushed. But I'm not complaining about any of this because I feel grateful that you are watching this right now and you are listening to this. Hey, don't scroll away, stay right there. You are watching this right now. You are hearing this right now. And because of that, you are allowing me into your life. And I am happy to have you here in mine to once again reiterate that this exercise is simply a means to an end. We are being inundated in the year 2025 with ceaseless information that we are supposed to evaluate on a non-stop basis. And what are we doing when we're evaluating it on a non-stop basis? We're not living. And moreover, when we are evaluating information that while it may not be disinformation, while it may not be misinformation, it is information nonetheless, which occupies time, which occupies our mind. And to what end? To what end? It is like if you lift weights every day in order to have a more fit body. While lifting to have a fit body is a good thing, it is only useful if you use that fit body to enhance the joy that you get out of living. Because if you are simply just trying to look like Arnold from 1974 on your deathbed, well, what is the point of that? So, the next time you find yourself in a workout situation, please keep this in mind to keep ignoring the Trump administration. Day 240 of 1461 Days of Ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. I am going to repeat a phrase that I've repeated previously. The internet is not real life. I would like to repeat a phrase that I want to repeat, that I'm going to repeat, that you can repeat, that we can repeat. The phrase is, the internet is not real life. Unfortunately, for some people, however, the internet is real life. And if they allow the internet to become real life, when they actually encounter real life after becoming convinced that the internet is real life, they find out that real life is not the internet. The reason we have radicalized people roaming around out in real life, and I didn't say radicalized on one side or another, because there are fucking weirdos everywhere. And frankly, there are fucking weirdos who don't even pay attention to politics or anything else. The reason we have people such as these roaming around is because they have internalized the radicalized life that they have come to believe is real when they are out in these streets. The chances of you or I encountering people such as these is small, but some of these people are in our government. And once again, I do not claim that they are on one side or another, because I am of the belief that to even become a politician in the first place, you have to have something very wrong with you. Who the hell would want to be part of that world? You would be better off being Truman on The Truman Show, where at least you are a character in an idealized fictional society on TV, rather than a radicalized fictional society on the internet. I want to remind myself and you today that the internet is not real life, because when you step outside your door, no matter where the hell your door exists, you will encounter kind people. You will encounter welcoming people. You will encounter optimistic people, because that is the majority of people. It is a shame that we do have so much negativity out there in the nation, but it is not even close to being the majority, because the majority ignores the Trump administration. Day 241 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Have you ever used the word hamburger? Well, if you are a North Korean, which you are not if you are watching this, you have to stop using that word, because it has been banned for being too Western. I guess if they had McDonald's in North Korea, the Hamburglar would be named the beef between bread burglar. You can look up the news story if you like, but there is no reason to, because I am sure you understand by now that in North Korea, citizens have very little freedom to think for themselves, much less to say what they want or eat what they choose. I have mentioned the 2023 documentary Beyond Utopia previously. Watch it if you dare. I ask myself when I see stories like this, and I ask myself when I see the controlling, paranoid behavior of the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, I ask, why do we live in a world where we allow men, mostly men, who are just the same flesh and blood as any other, why do we allow them to have any control over our lives? It is a question that I have had since I was a little boy. I remember in first grade, a teacher trying to tell me what to do. And even though I was 5 years old, I had the good fortune to have learned how to read before I started kindergarten. And so I knew by that time that it was inappropriate for anyone to tell me or anyone else what to think, what to say, or how to be. Just like I don't assume that I can do that to anyone else. If the world is to be governed by leaders, those leaders should possess the ambition needed to be elected and the humility to respect the electorate. The leader should be the most humble member of the constituency. Now, at the age of 53, I continue to wonder why we have given men, mostly men, power over our thoughts, power over our words, and power over our deeds. I am not offering a solution. I am not offering beef between bread either. Frankly, plenty of people out there seem to want to be controlled, but I will never understand why someone would want to be in that situation instead of ignoring the Trump administration. Day 242 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. I never watch Jimmy Kimmel. I stopped watching late night television when David Letterman went off. I grew up with David Letterman. I found his show hilarious. But after he was gone, I never watched late night TV again. I have never seen a single episode of Jimmy Fallon or whoever the hell else there is. That being said, I checked for myself, and Jimmy Kimmel should not have been taken off the air because what he said didn't warrant him being taken off the air. But that is not what the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration cares about. They care about silencing anyone who is critical of the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, as stated by the leader of the Trump administration today when he said all they do is hit Trump. They're not allowed to do that. Well, yes, they are. But we know he thinks this anyway. It is not a surprise. How do I remain mindful, optimistic, and hopeful amid this latest development? Well, I remind myself that it is simply their turn. They want to do the canceling this time around. They think that when they got canceled, the reasons for them being canceled were as stupid as we think the reasons for Jimmy Kimmel being canceled are. In this particular case, if I were Jimmy Kimmel, I wouldn't have said jack shit. And not because of fear, because what he said wasn't really that funny anyway. I don't continue to watch late night TV because no one is as funny as David Letterman. I remember this bit where Chris Elliott came on there and a member of the audience asked him which is lower in cholesterol, peanut oil or corn oil. And Chris proceeded to drink what looked like 2 bottles of oil. And of course, it wasn't really 2 bottles of oil, but it looked like 2 bottles of oil. And after he got done drinking 2 bottles of oil, he said, "I can't tell a difference, Dave. You should look up that clip. It's on YouTube." What I'm saying is Jimmy Kimmel should say whatever the hell he wants about anyone he wants to say it about. But in this WWE world we are living in, it is the heel who currently holds the belt. And that heel is going to do heel behavior until such a time that a face comes around and defeats that heel. It always happens. Consult your history book after you check out that Letterman clip. So until that time, we will have to live in the real life wrestling ring of retaliation. And my closing move is ignoring the Trump administration. Hey, it's Josh. I'm back. I bet you thought I had an English muffin while you were gone, but no. I am working in a calorie deficit as I continue my efforts to reach my goal weight. Now that people can afford Ozempic to be thin and doing so without doing the work, I feel even more compelled to complete my journey by continuing to become healthy in mind, body, and soul, not just body. It's not that easy, Oprah. Speaking of O is also for oil. I hope you will go and look up that Chris Elliott clip I mentioned. It is one of my favorite clips from the old Letterman show when he used to be on at 12:30 a.m. on NBC. I was in my early teens and it warped my mind in a good way. Actually, no, in a great way. Thanks again for listening. Please leave a 5-star rating for the Josh Bloom podcast in your podcast app and leave a comment saying that you like the show. Don't forget to follow and please tell a friend about the show. This week, no jokes. I mean it. Just one friend. Hey, you should listen to the Josh Bloom podcast. He really wants me to tell you that, and he really means it. He wants you to be a fan. Give him a chance. He's just sitting in his living room chair in self-imposed poverty, and he needs your help. He would also like you to buy him a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Josh Bloom. Lastly, visit me everywhere for everything by going to superjews.com. That's superjerjews.com for links to all of my social media, and visit superjews.substack.com to subscribe to my Substack, which contains all of my long-form writing. Subscriptions are free, or for a small monthly donation, you can support my work. It helps a lot. Thanks again for listening. I will see you next week.